Hi class, in this video we're going to go over a problem that is similar to problem 3-21 out of the textbook. So the format and the process will be the same. The numbers will be different, the amounts will be different, but hopefully this will at least give you an idea how to set up your homework. So this says Gold Star Rice Limited exports rice throughout Asia. They have 3 varieties, fragrant, white, and lunzane. Budgeted sales are given, and we have a chart here with lots of information. We have dollar sales to break even formatted here, and here's our formula and the calculations. And then we are to assume the actual sales for the month are $720,000, and they break those sales up by the 3 crop types, white, fragrant, and lunzane. And the first thing we are to do is prepare a contribution format income statement for the month based on actual sales data. So I'm using the software that comes with the from the publisher. You'll use Excel, but I would set it up something like this. And we're going to go through here, and I've already put my titles in. So your titles here on the side should be the same as what mine are, unless for some reason you had a net operating loss, and then that would change. And then this one, contribution margin, if it's negative, it would be a contribution loss. Other than that, the title should be the same. All right, so a percentage of total. The first thing we're going to do is look at the percentage of total sales that each of those types of rice makes as far as the entire rice sold. So we had white rice sales of $233,400. And we're going to divide that by the total sales of $720,000. And that gives us 32% of the sales that are white. Oh, I can't do it. Let's see. There. Can't find the box. Okay, 32% of the sales are white rice. So I just took the amount of sales by white rice, divided it by the total sales altogether. And so fragrant rice is $288,000. Divided by $720,000 is 40%. And the same for lunzane is $201,600 divided by total of $720,000, and that comes to 28%. So our total sales should be 100%. And so we added 32% and 40%, 28%. It does equal 100% of our sales. So that's right. We've only sold 3 products, so the total of sales from each of those should equal 100%. So the next thing we're going to do is calculate the amount of sales for each type of rice. So we know our total sales are $720,000. So we're going to use that to calculate the amount of sales of white rice. So we're going to times the $720,000 times the 32%, which is the amount of sales that the white rice makes up, and that's $230,400. Do the same thing. Oops. And let's see. That's 100% of our sales, so fill in that box. For a fragrant, it's 40% of $720,000. So that comes to $288,000. And again, that's 100% of the sales of fragrant rice. And 28% of $720,000 is $201,600 for lunzane. And I just did calculations I really didn't have to do because they're all up here. So I did it the hard way, but you can see how those would be calculated. So our total sales were $720,000, so we can just put that in. And again, that's 100% of the sales for the total. So here's our sales, 32%, 40%, 28% gives us $720,000. The next thing we're going to do is calculate our variable expenses. So to do that, I'm going to look up here. And it says the variable expenses for white rice is 30% of sales. So we're going to put that 30% in here. And then we're going to take the 30% and multiply it by $230,400, which is the amount of sales for white rice. So if we figure 30% of the sales for white rice, that gives us $69,100 $120. We're going to do the same thing for fragrant rice. We're going to go up here, and it says the percentage of variable expenses is 80% of sales. Let me put that in there. And then we're going to multiply 80% times 288,000. Excuse me. It's 230,400. Whoops, I'm in the wrong column. And then Lunzane, we're going to go back up here to our chart. It says variable expenses are 55% of sales. So we're going to multiply 55% times $201,600 is $110,880. All right, so our total variable expenses, let's see, should be $69,120 plus $230,400 plus $110,880 gives us $410,400. So to get that, I just added each of the categories of variable expenses across to get the total variable expenses. So to figure out what percent that is, I can take the $410,400, which is the variable expenses divided by the total sales. That gives me a percentage of 57%. And our contribution margin is calculated automatically, but in your spreadsheet, you just take the sales less variable expenses, and that's going to give you the contribution margin, which is the amount you've got left over after you pay variable expenses to pay the fixed expenses. The next thing we need to do is put in our fixed expenses. We just actually are going to carry those down from up here at the top. They're $225,160. Because they're fixed, they shouldn't have changed, so we should have that set amount. The next thing we're going to do is step 2, or part 2, calculate the break-even point in dollars sales, and they actually give us the formula for that up here. So we're going to take our fixed expenses divided by our unit contribution margin. So our fixed expenses are $225,160. We're going to divide that by our unit contribution margin, and mine is calculated here. It's 43%. So you can see I had my total sales 100% less 57% variable expenses leaves 43% contribution margin. So we're going to divide that by 0.43, and that gives us $523,628 break-even point. So that's all there is to part 2. I think part 3, your homework asks you to write a memo. I'm not going to go through that here, but you can just write a really brief memo outlining the reasons and the reasoning behind this problem. So that is all there is to at least parts 1 and parts 2 of problem 3-21, or one similar to it. So set up your Excel spreadsheet similar to this. Doesn't have to be real pretty, as long as I can follow it and you've got the columns and the lines kind of where they make sense. So hopefully this helps.